Okay, I guess we should get started. All good? Bit of warning, there's a lot of code with slightly dubious backgrounds that may not look very good. Some of that code is quite low on the slides, so people hiding at the back, you may struggle to read it, but that makes it easier for me because then you won't spot the bugs. Oh, got a laugh. Okay, so a little introduction before we get into it. So my name's Lance. I'm a Perl developer, Perl5 developer at CV Library. We're a website here in the UK that some of you have probably heard of, and we're a job board. We help people find jobs. It's what we do. We're a Perl5 shop. We got started in 2000 in Perl5, and we're still a Perl shop in 2018. And this talk, as the title sort of suggests, is about building a web application in Perl6. And the genesis of this talk is that I went to the Perl conference in Amsterdam, and as you do, you're like, oh yeah, this Perl6 thing's awesome. I can do hello world, but that's about it. And I thought, right, I need to build something really cool. And I know how to build websites, and outside of this, I do judo, so I know what I'll do. I'll build a judo website in Perl6. So I had a look around, and I did that. And because I'm kind of driven by social pressure, I went, okay, what I'll do is I'll do a talk at LPW about it. And that talk turned into a workshop, and that's what I did. So last year, I built a web application in Perl6 using Bailador, which is in production. People use it, mainly me, but it is in production. So coming out of LPW, about LPW in the beginning of this year, Cro came on the scene. I don't know if anybody's heard of Cro. Yep, good. So that sort of drove me. I went, maybe I should play with this cool thing called Cro. It's really cool. Everybody's talking about it. Maybe I should play with it. So I started playing with that, and that's sort of what I did is I ported my application from Bailador into Cro with a lot of help from other people, and that's sort of what this talk is about. So it's a little mix of what I did and why I did it. So for those of you who don't know, Bailador is a web framework, as it says there, really similar to Dancer, if you've used Dancer in Perl5 land. And when I first started looking at this, it was the main one I found. I think some people that use /write are here, I can't remember. And it's like Dancer, and we use Dancer at work, so it was really easy for me to get started with it because I understood it fairly easily. Cro, on the other hand, doesn't even say that it's a web framework for creating websites. It's about creating these distributed systems, but a website's kind of like a distributed system. You have a client over here on my browser and system over here. And when I was looking at it, it seemed really exciting and active. John Worthington and the Idgement people seemed to be doing lots of cool stuff with it. So that kind of drove me to do it. And it's very Perl6-ish, or it felt Perl6-ish to me. Okay, so for me, it felt a bit more like learning Perl6, whereas with Bailador, I felt like I was using my Perl5 stuff. And I keep saying to people that I feel like I speak a bit of Perl6, but I speak it with a heavy Perl5 accent. So yeah, it felt Perl5-ish. Cro felt a bit more like Perl6, and I might learn a bit more Perl6 syntax and things like that. The other thing with Cro, and I'll show you a little bit later, it's got really nice tooling, so it's quite nice to work with that way. I wanted to keep learning stuff, and it had lots of hype and stuff, so I thought, why the heck not? I'll port it. So the next set of slides is when it gets very codish. When you spot the syntax error, you can write it down and tell me at the end, and I'll give you a prize that doesn't exist. So the first thing we kind of want to do when we build a web app, and this might be, as my father would say, teaching your grandmother how to suck eggs. The first thing we kind of want to do is get a get root, and this is how you do it. Like I say, one of the nice things about Cro is it comes with really nice tooling. So it has this thing called Cro HTTP test, which makes it really simple for me to say, I want to get my forwards, just the root. I want it to be a 200, I want it to be text HTML, and I want the body of that page to have example 1 in it. And you can see in that top box, that's all there is to it. The bottom box shows you that root as I've defined it. And this is, literally, it's just get. The / is kind of inferred there. and I just return some content. It's text HTML, and it says example 1. And then I can use Perl6, and I can, it runs my little test for me, and then that screenshot is my stunning web page. Beautiful. You all laugh, but the designers at my work will tell you that is really how I do them. So the second thing we probably want to do is we want to have slash something, a bit of depth to this website. So again, I want to do a little test, which is /hello/world. And what I want it to do is return that world bit of the URL for me. Not that tricky. So you can see there, I just want the body to say hello world. You can see in the second box, if you're far enough forward, that it's get, and then you can see hello there, then comma, $name. So it's kind of inferred. You can see that it's get //hello/$name. And then I can return some HTML content and just hello $name. So it's nice and simple. And again, my great CSS skills come to the fore again, and you can see that. So then kind of the last thing that obviously you're going to need is you're going to do a post request. Again, dead simple. This one is actually cribbed, I think, directly from the Cro project itself, from the documentation, from their tests, I think it is actually. So this time I got a bit tricky. It's a /add route, and this time I'm going to post some JSON, and I'm going to post an X and a Y, and I'm going to add them together, and I expect it to return JSON with a result of 42, because that's always the right answer. And then you can see in the second box, and this is where it gets a bit more Perl 6-ish in terms of, I think, of the syntax than I'm more used to. You can just see I take the request, and I got X and Y, and I just return a nice bit of JSON like that. And it's, again, dead simple. The test worked, and I can curl that because my browser didn't like it much. And 5 and 2 comes out 7. It's exactly what you'd expect. So all that's done, for me at least, I did it in a file called roots. This is my service.psx, sort of the start of the application. And this is how I set it up. So I'm going to create a Cro service. It uses the Cro HTTP server. And you can just see there that it's HTTP 1.1. The host and the port are just coming from the environment. My little application is just that root subroutine, and then it's got a little logging thing tacked on the end there. Then I'll just go $HTTP start, and that's all there is to it. It's really, really simple. So I'll give you a rest from the code for a little bit. So myjudo.net is the site that I'm running. It's up. It is hopefully up. I haven't seen any alerts. It's Perl6. One of the other nice things about Perl6 for me was judo. We use Japanese characters. Perl6 handles Japanese characters really nicely. At one point when I wrote it, I think I said this at LPW, I had all the judo technique names in the Japanese characters, and I could just call them nicely because Perl6 just handles that. So for me, as a judo guy, it was really nice. I'm actually getting better at judo because Perl6 makes it easy for me to learn the characters. I start to recognize them all because I can just use them in the code. It's really nice. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Yeah, so when I ported it, so I actually wrote it all in Bailador for LPW, and then I ported it. So the top box there is the user's homepage in Bailador. So I had this nice prefix thing, and it's a bit like Dancer if you use Dancer, that it's /user/:user for the username, and then you turn that into user. I had a little bit of handcrafted authorization and authentication stuff happening in there. It was very ugly. But I basically get the user's data out of the database and then push it into a template. And it was Template Mojo, I think is the one that Bailador used, and I used the same one, so I didn't have to change anything on that side. And then the bottom box in Cro, you can see it's basically, it's pretty similar. So it was actually really easy to port from one to the other, and I could go back again, I guess, as well. But you can see there, it's really simple. A couple of little things hidden in this one is you can see I've got, on the get route, I've got get logged in user. So that's kind of the authorization layer there saying, are they actually a logged in user? I won't bother showing you the little, very small amount of code to make that work. And then the way I call the template, slightly different. And it actually shows me, me pushing a data structure into a template, which I haven't shown you before. Like I say, one of the reasons I got excited about Cro is it's got nice tooling. So in terms of tooling, comes with Docker out of the box by default. You can get that this is the Docker file that you get when you sort of stub out an application in Cro. It's okay, it works pretty well. This is the one I'm using at the moment. It's in a smaller font, so it must be better. I have to confess I didn't write most of this, to be honest. A guy back there did. Because I'm using crypt-bcrypt, and that's got some Linux dependencies and that sort of stuff, it's pulling some of that stuff into the layers and magic Docker stuff. But it's there, and it's sort of built there by default. So Cro sort of has Docker as a thing. So when I actually deploy this, it's on GitHub. I build it, push it to GitHub, gets built, goes to Docker Hub, gets built, and then on my actual live server, I just pull the image down, and then it's easy. I don't have to do anything. There's nothing to worry about. It's really nice. Like I say, that Docker file, the first one, was created with this tool called Cro Stub. So you just type Cro Stub with what sort of service you want to create. And at the moment, it's got 0MQ, HTTP, and this React Redux single page app that I've never played with. You say what you want, and it just stubs out the directories and the roots file and the server file. It's nice and easy. The next one it gives you is Cro Run. And Cro Run is really nice, fits in with a lot of the other tools that you see out there, that when you type Cro Run, it'll start up your application. You can see there, it loads it up on localhost port 20,000. And what happens is, if you change the source files, it restarts the application for you straight away. So you don't have to, Control-C and all that sort of stuff. And it has nice Unicode characters, which you probably can't read very well, but Unicode is cool. And it looks nice. It looks really nice. You just go Cro Run, pops up. You stop and restart. It's really, really nice. And then if you get really serious, you can run Cro Trace. And Cro Trace is, for me, and this is my naive interpretation, like Cro Run, but it gives you the stack. So you can see in this example, it's basically the same thing. I've made a GET request, but it's showing me the TCP message. So it's showing me all the stuff. It's really, really nice. I never use it. But it's there. It's really nice. And then if you wanted to glue this all together, you can type Cro Web. Cro Web's even cooler because it starts up a web server, which does, it'll basically gives you your log. You can turn on the tracing. You can stop the application. You can restart the application, all from there. And it's all in a cool web interface because web interface is cool. And it looks really nice. It also shows all the linkages between the services that you've written. I don't know enough about that, and I was really hoping John Withington was going to come here because I was just going to spend 3 days pestering him about how do you do this other stuff. But sadly. Sorry? Yeah. Thank you. We can make more jokes about Brexit. Okay. So I showed you a little bit of the basics, and like anything, the basics, the hello world stuff is fine. One of the reasons I wanted to try Cro was I struggled to get SSL to work with Bailador. I don't know why. Probably me. But this is how I implemented it in Cro. So I create my server, I set the port and the host, and then I basically just added this TLS key there and the objects there. And I just get a certificate and a key from Let's Encrypt, using their tools, and then I just say where they are via the environment, and then say what ciphers I want to use. And that was all I had to do, and it just worked. It was really, really nice. I tried it in Bailador, and I just struggled. I could get bits of it to work. It just did my head in. It was probably all me, but it worked out of the box. And that list of ciphers is the Mozilla modern compatible list, and that's now the default in Cro as well. Again, they're really receptive. I sort of pinged them, and they said, oh yeah, cool, and I just did a pull request, and that's now the standard, which is really nice. It seems like a nice project from that perspective as well. So having got SSL working, my colleague said, oh, well, what about secure transport? So that it's always SSL. Oh man, I don't know how to do that. And it turned out that I could work out how to do it relatively easy. You could just wrap a middleware around it. So this class is a Cro transform. And I pretty much don't have to describe it, but I will, because reading code off a slide is the best way to do a presentation. So basically it consumes something and it produces something. And what it consumes and produces is the same thing. It's just a HTTP response. and then it transforms it in the middle. And all I wanted to do was add this header, which was the strict transport security header to the HTTP response. And you can see it's dead simple. I just append header, and then I added that header, and that was all I could write this middleware. I was pretty impressed. And then to actually implement it, I just added it to that after block that you saw in there when you create the server instance. So just added it there, and it just magically worked, which was, what I liked about it was it just magically worked. So for me, it's been really interesting to learn a bit of Perl6 and use it. I have a very small user base of me and a few guys from my club and people that I go, hey, you should try this thing I built. It's just my experiences, but going for Bailador was really fun. I learned a lot doing that. And again, Bailador, the people in Bailador were really helpful and accepted pull requests and answered questions for me, which was really nice. When I went over to Cro, it was exactly the same thing, that when I had questions, I think I found the documentation was really good in Cro as well. But when I asked questions, I think I have a pull request on that as well. That got accepted really quickly and was really well received, which was a really nice feeling that it was both those separate projects were really welcoming to helping me get what I wanted to get done. Having worked with both, Cro, I think, has won me over a little bit because everything kind of works by magic, and that's what I'm not that smart. I like things to be easy, and it sort of made things easy for me to build what I wanted. So then I could waste time trying to work out how to do 6 degrees of separation between judo coaches, which is something that I never want to do again. And recursive database queries and things like that. But Perl got out of the framework and everything got out of the way, and I could just worry about trying to invent new things I wanted to do with it, rather than worrying about how do I turn SSL on, which was horrible. And that's basically what I liked about it, and that's sort of my experiences on building something that sat there. I run like a little monitoring thing. The site did go down a bit for a while, but it's been really stable. It doesn't crash. It just sits and runs like clockwork. So I think somebody out, I think you guys were asking, is it in production? Is Perl6 in production? It is. It's a very small production, but it is in production, and it felt like, especially by the time I got to the end with Cro, it felt like something that I could trust, especially now that I can just build my Docker container. It's all nice and ordered, it's all this trendy cool stuff onto GitHub, and then gets built by Travis CI, and then Docker Hub, and then I just pull it down and run it. It feels like the talk that I gave yesterday about these other projects and other parts of the internet. It feels like it's at that point where I can just run it and it's all fine. So that's it. Any questions? Did you find the bug? Sorry? No, there is no bug that I know of. That one? Yes? I don't know. Is there anyone in here who knows Perl6? A little bit? Good, because I don't. Yeah. It's a Perl6 thing, which is one of the reasons I like working with it, because, I would have written that with, port, fat comma, number, and I'd never written it that way before, and I think somebody said, oh, you could just do it like this. I'm like, really? Yeah.
It really turns into the same fat comma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you have another server between this to manage Cro?
Would I have another server between this to manage Cro? How do you mean in terms of?
Like when I was using Gums or I was using Starman.
Oh, right. Like a proxy in between. I don't. And you can ask my colleagues about my sophisticated provisioning system, which involves using Screen and a bash script. I don't know enough about it. So Cro has a whole bunch of stuff about linking services together. So I think maybe you would put Nginx or something in between, but yeah, above my pay scale. Any other questions? Good. Has anybody used Bailador and Anger? Yeah? Cro? Okay, so I'm following the right hype cycle. Yes. Okay. Okay, thank you. If you have any questions, ask me later.